Hello, everybody, and welcome to Main Street News here today on Tuesday. I hope everybody has had a good start to their week. I know I have. It's going to be kind of a crazy busy week tomorrow. I'm excited to go to this strategic planning event in Lorraine County. And I'll be filling you guys in on more what strategic planning is later down the road. But tonight we're gonna finish up this talking about this douche nozzle NSA Nate. Not a fan of him. He's a super secret spy that popped in on a Zoom call unannounced. Had no idea who he was, and from there, I kind of was interested in him because why is he interested in me and my story? So hopefully tonight I don't have as many audio issues with stupid, I'm still working out the, StreamYard, but hopefully I don't have as many audio issues. But where I want to start is an interview Nate Kane did this last year in 2023 when he announced he was going to be running for Congress in West Virginia. And I'm going to play that clip for you. We're going to start it as work history. And then I'm going to tell you why his work history is relevant to this background story he's trying to give, and the Horowitz report, the Durham report, and why he's even relevant to discuss. I think he's part of a bigger picture, bigger move. I believe he's a Democrat, to be honest with you, and it's just like my county. We got Democrats running as Republicans, and it's just a mess. And I'm really excited. In a couple weeks, I'll be interviewing my local commissioner and just talking about what a commissioner does, and that's who the Dems running against. Sorry, that's why I brought him up, but I'm really excited about that. We'll be also interviewing my county sheriff, talking about that job, and then stuff specific to my county, but all in all relevant. So let's start, and I brought my reading glasses, so I'm not sitting here going to the screen like this and squinting like a crazy person. So we're gonna start with a clip from Nate Kane. This is from this crowdsource truth. I don't think they're a good account, but to follow, it's just that's where I found this information. This part of the information, and he kind of expounded on his background, so I wanted to, discuss. Sorry about my voice tonight. I just got over COVID. That's why I didn't post last week. I wasn't, I was dying, but I lost my voice a little bit. It's just coming back, and I'm going to push through it because we need to get this done. All right, you guys, I'm going to mute this.
Theory by January of 2016
going in and basic. But we went to Marforce Cyber. I got picked up for this role on a cyber protection team. And the idea there was that I would be going after hackers that were attempting to infiltrate our national critical infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And so they sent me to their cyber course school at FANX, and I ended up going through their training. It was some of the best training I've ever had in my life. And it was really, really intense. I mean, it was like every single day.
Chickens are coming home to roost.
Yes. Yeah, that's Rudy over there. One of the things that happened there was our team was part of the national mission. So we got detached, and we basically were attached to NSA. So I went through and got read on to all of these programs that I had no idea at the time just how relevant they would be now. But things like FISA, things like 702, intelligence authorities, all of that. And I mean, I had my intelligence, that was the first time I ever was part of the intelligence community. And I had my badge that allowed me to, get into places like, the Pentagon and,
wow.
Walk in. And it was real. And
what years roughly?
This would have been 2015, I think, somewhere around there. We ended up, I wasn't there for very long. I was only there for, a little over a year. And that was due to as soon as I got my training and I, put that up on my resume, and immediately I got called, like the day after I graduated from, the Cyber Corps unit, and a company called me and they wanted me to come, interview for twice the amount of money that I was making. So, I mean, it was kind of hard to turn down.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved working there. Probably it was one of the most exciting jobs I ever had. And but you know, when you got a family, you know, you got to consider income. So I ended up going down interviewing with the FBI, and it was one of the most exciting, you know, times of my life, in the sense that I always had this great respect and admiration for the FBI. I saw them as like the premier law enforcement unit. You know, I was not somebody that had a college degree, and so
that's shocking.
Yeah, you know,
you seem so intelligent and educated.
Well, I've educated myself, and I now fast forward to, you know, to my time going to the FBI. When I interviewed with them, they had I think like something like 17 guys they had just been going through, and they couldn't get them to, like, you know, they didn't like anybody. And when I interviewed, because I had that training and the unit that I was hired in under the Information Assurance Division, they had another unit that did penetration testing as well. And so I had some skills that could fit both things. And I think that was one of the reasons they really liked me. But I also had a lot of experience in setting up tenable systems, and it was their vulnerability management system, and they were getting ready to deploy it all the way across, you know, the FBI's, you know, all of their field offices and everything. And I had done that for Pearl Harbor Navy Shipyard, and helped to, you know, set that up across Misawa and a couple of other places, and, you know, remotely in Japan. And so I had some experience in that enterprise, you know, wide area network deployment. So things went really well in the interview, and I got offered the job, and I started working there. And at first it was really slow. This was something that was being pushed down, you know, to the...
Again, what time roughly?
This would have been 2000, I think 2000, late 2016.
So after Trump won?
No.
In the heat of the campaign?
Yeah, it was, well, it was probably right in the heat of the campaign, yeah, because it was 2018, right?
16.
Sorry, 2016. So no, it had to have been before, dang. All right, so I got the times wrong on this, because I got there before he won, so it was before the election.
Okay.
And but I was working in there, and one day I came in. So let me think about this. I went to Japan, 2012, 13, 14, 15. So I came over 2015, and I worked at NSA, 15 to 16.
Let
so
me
it's been
just,
2000.
Let me just add some context
Sure.
that you may or may not be aware of, and this
Yeah.
is all publicly available information. So, which is the only thing we deal with.
Sure.
To set your mind at ease. We have done a lot of work on the investigation by the Inspector General of the the intelligence community that began with a referral to the FBI on July 6th, 2015.
Okay.
So the Inspector General of the IC
Yeah.
was all over Hillary Clinton and
Yeah.
all over the whole process of her having...
Now, when you say the IC, are you talking about Michael Atkinson, or are you talking about a different one?
the guy before that,
Okay, good. Because I was going to say it had to have been somebody other than
Chuck McCulloch.
because Atkinson was dirty.
Yeah, Chuck McCulloch.
Okay, yeah.
So he was
That makes sense.
So he was the guy who recommended to the FBI on July 6, 2015, that Hillary Clinton's whole unvetted devices and private server system be investigated.
Right.
And there's a lot. I think it's what now, Jason? 50 plus part report
something like
online
that.
you can look at in the FBI vault. Hillary R. Clinton. So they begin that right when you're where you
Right.
were.
So I probably got there then early 2016, because it was before the election,
Right.
but not too much before it.
Right. But so why I'm bringing it up is, in theory, the FBI was investigating Hillary Clinton.
So we're gonna just do a quick overview, but you keep hearing NSA, National Security Group. He went to go work for the FBI in 2016. In 2016, right before Trump was elected, he went to go work for the FBI. Based on the Horowitz report and the Durham report, if he worked for the FBI in 2016, he would have been fielded, based on that page 78 that he quoted to Fox News about a week ago. He would have been in the FBI field office in Washington in 2016. Well, what was going on in 2016? Well, with the FBI, who was the FBI investigating? Hillary Clinton? No. Well, they were covering for Hillary Clinton. We all know that. they were investigating Trump though, but he's here as a MAGA candidate. It's kind of unbelievable. Now they're about to bring up Loretta Lynch and the tarmac meeting with Bill Clinton here. But before we do that, I want to just do like the quick points of where he worked. NSA Nate, and I have my notes so I don't jump everywhere. Okay, so work history. He first starts 26 years cybersecurity. Now he's a CISSP. A CISSP is a fancy way of saying that you know and you are knowledgeable and certified through the International Information, I forget what the last part is, program, or it's an international program that you know tenable security systems, and it doesn't mean you're like a hacker. It's not a huge, it's old for one, it's an old certification. I know somebody that got it back in 2002. And he doesn't have very many certifications after that. So I don't think he's some like crazy hacker. You know what I mean? I do think he's either one of the special field agents, or he's the guy working within the NSA with the FBI field offices based on that page 78 Durham report. And that just makes sense. Majority of the work history was in the Department of Defense. He started in the U.S. Army. He learned cybersecurity. He left. He went to DISA, which is the Defense Information Security Systems Agency, and he worked as a contractor. Now, this is where I found it really interesting. He slips here. He says he worked on a system that organized emails and classified emails. Okay, 2016, let's think emails. Hillary Clinton, emails? So you would have been organizing and classifying emails, not for her, but like for the entire system, but it could be her. You know what I mean? More than likely could be you know how to access that information off those systems, history, this, that, another thing. You know what I mean? Like he has the knowledge to be able to do that. But the fact that he even said it, he worked on a system that organized emails and classified emails for the National Capital Region. DC? Okay. Then, after that, he eventually was hired by the U.S. Navy as a civil servant in San Diego as a contractor for cybersecurity. His number 2 campaign donor people is in Washington, which I find interesting. He's an owner of an IT management system, which I find interesting. His business partner is out of California, Harry Howery, who's also with the Navy. You know what I mean? I gotta stop saying you know what I mean. I talked to somebody today and I keep saying it. Information System Security Director in Japan for the Navy in Yokosuka. 2012, he came back from there. Well, what happened around 2012 in Hawaii? And that's Snowden, right? And that's where he goes to. He goes to Hawaii after Japan, 2012 to 2015. Then he went to the Marforce Cyber. When he says that, what is Marforce Cyber? It's the Marine Force Cyber Command, okay? And he said he trained on a black team. He was a DCI stunt team. And then also he says hacker. But like, I'm going to tell you this, you guys. Anybody that's really in IT, that really is that knowledgeable in systems where they can hack systems and acquire information that off systems that most people can't, you won't ever know about it. They don't talk publicly. They just don't. It's not a thing in the security. It's just not. They're very private people, usually. And not political either. And this guy wants to be, no. Okay. So he was on a cyber protection team, hackers that were already training in the national critical infrastructure. And when they say that, they mean their systems security, even like when the NSA is collecting like our information, storing it, it's that system, you know what I mean, that they're talking about. And then after, being being an FBI agent in 2016, he then, less than 4 years later is working with Patrick Byrne on this election integrity team. And then even closer, 2 years after working for the FBI, he's some fucking whistleblower on Uranium One that already had happened, by the way. He blew the whistle a year after it already came out in the paper. She said it was a nothing burger. Nothing came of it with the Clinton Foundation. And I want to bring this up. What real whistleblower of the Clintons does everybody know that's even alive? I mean, look at the Clinton body list. So you really were, you know what I mean, this super secret spy that had information on the Clintons. No offense, homie. I don't think you'd be even talking about it. Because you might end up like many of the other victims with, suicide, claimed suicide with 2 gunshot wounds in your head. I mean, that was my first answer to Karen and Hayden was this: if this guy is legitimate, why is he here? Why is he not like hiding out somewhere? Because he's gonna save the world, right? Next quick clip is when he starts talking about the Clinton background. He knows an awful lot about the Clintons too, and he knows an awful lot about, how am I going to say this, about that whole situation within the FBI during Russiagate and the FBI covering for the Clintons. So it's shady. But let's hear what he has to say about it.
Theory, by January of 2016, according to the Horowitz report, they were investigating the Clinton Foundation.
Yes, they were.
But they didn't seem to be able to find any of the obvious stuff.
Well, they found it. They
right?
found it. So the documents that I walked out of and so let me get to how I ended up going and looking for these things. Because I mean, I've had a clearance, top secret clearance, all the way back since 1997.
Wow.
So not something that I wanted to, get in. I've always stayed away from looking at things that I had no business looking at. Since having a clearance, I've always worked in jobs where, basically I'm only looking at stuff that, really relates to my job. And I had never deviated from that, going to look for things that were outside of the scope of my need to know. That all changed on one day when I came into the office, and my supervisor, my government supervisor, was, having a conversation with my other colleague, and it was unusual because like I'd been there for about a year and I hadn't seen any kind of, rumors or anything like that. Everything was very compartmentalized at the FBI, and when I came in, and they were kind of whispering over the corner, I'm like, walked over and I was like, hey, what's going on? And that's when my supervisor told me that somebody had discovered that, in the FBI, that there were transcripts from a conversation that had occurred over a chat system. And that this system is, it's like Skype, like for business, but the FBI uses it and internally.
Is that teleport?
No, it literally is like, it's Skype. It's called Link, but they have it built in for their FBI net on the high side, on the classified side, and so they're communicating in conference calls. But FBI has one thing that's really, really good, and that is their record management is bar none some of the best in the world, and that's because of things that have happened that they've had to improve on it. And so it transcribes these conversations that are happening in these calls, and then it dumps them somewhere.
Wow.
And so apparently it got dumped, but it didn't get compartmentalized right away, and somebody saw the conversation that was going on with people on the 7th floor. And this discussion was about Hillary Clinton and about what they were going to do with some major findings or major things that they had found. And words like, this is what was related to me, words like treason, were being talked about. The statement was made that this is big enough it could take down the government, things like that. Their determination was they were going to cover up everything.
So let me, this is making my head spin, which is fantastic, but I don't know if you know Larry Johnson, but he's somebody we've come to know, and he has a piece out on the 21st of April reminding folks of the work that I had done exposing, and Jason had done, exposing a senior State Department whistleblower who sent a letter to Comey around January 10th, 2016, so just around the time that you're talking about there, saying, I have evidence of treason, not just by Hillary Clinton, also by, I believe, Barack Obama, and I want to go into a skiff with you, and I want to give you this information, and I want you to tell me that you received my letter. He didn't do that, so January 27th, this guy comes in, and we have a copy of the letter. It's in the public domain. We have a copy of how the FBI reacted at the Washington field office, and in short, they didn't react. This guy, Giacolone, who was leading the investigation, he promptly resigned in late January 2016. So.
Well, there's
I didn't hit on mute. I'm sorry. So Larry Johnson, I found that it was funny that Larry Johnson is a ex-CIA agent. He was an analyst for 4 years apparently. So I find it funny that he brings that up. But listen, he keeps talking about the servers. So he knew that somebody on the 7th floor, and that's not what he blew the whistle on, by the way, but he knew that there were conversations being had because he was the guy that took these transcriptions and, dumped them. And then, so he knows that. He dealt with these emails. And when he says compartmentalize, he means put them on the blockchain. Because he explains, and it's kind of shady he doesn't mention it earlier, because he explains later in this interview taking information off the blockchain. You know what I mean? But because the NSA has used blockchain since the early 2000s. Let's just be real. You know what I mean? And a blockchain is immutable and irrefutable. So what you put on and what you take off, it can't be changed because of keys. And I'm not going to get in the willy-nilly of it, but literally think of blocks in a chain. You can't unlink it because there's a little block in that original block that has a key code in it, and you need authentication before you can change anything on that chain, which is why blockchain is so important. It's immutable and irrefutable. But the fact that he doesn't use the word blockchain, it makes me think he's a little shady. But he talks about credible criminal activity, money laundering, public corruption, sex fraud, securities exchange fraud, and terrorism financing. And he's about to say it right here. So we're going to play this clip real quick. And then I'll hopefully unmute myself right after again. I hate when that happens.
But that was kind of interesting because it was right around that same time. And then when he told me about this other issue, I remember thinking, no way. You got to, I knew there was stuff going on. I knew this at this time, the main thing that was going on was the Hillary email server, was being investigated. And I knew, so I was kind of like, the thought of a cover up, I had to look. I couldn't just ignore that. But when I went and looked, I saw, I never did find those transcripts because by the time I got in there, it was probably already moved. But what I did find was I found a whole lot of Treasury suspicious activity reports that had been, sent over by FinCEN.
Let me stop you there just
Sure.
for the audience. How much trouble might you get in with one suspicious activity report? What does that mean exactly when something like that gets issued?
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean anything at first. A suspicious activity report is just that, it's suspicion. But these were different. These were ones that had already been analyzed by intelligence analysts within the FBI. And they had analyst notes down below. They had a case number, so they were part of an investigation. They were considered evidence. They had field offices that they were connected to. And one of the things that was surprising to me was the ones that I saw all said high credibility of, of criminal activity.
Wow.
And so the criminal codes that were assigned to these different FinCENT notices were, one was money laundering. That was the majority of them were related to money laundering. You had public corruption, you had securities and exchange fraud, and you had terrorism financing.
Wow.
And all of these things were there, and I'm looking at it, I'm going, there's no way Hillary Clinton doesn't get indicted. I mean, this was like, it had the bank accounts and the routing for how money went from this account to this account to this shell corporation to this shell account to this charity to that charity, and it named all the names, all the people, everybody involved, all of that. So I mean, they were able to see everything.
And again, the timing, if you can try to remember a little bit more specifically, was it March 2016? Was it June? Was it September?
It had. So I know it was before the election.
Right.
I know it was. It would probably March. Probably sounds about right, somewhere around there. And at first, when I saw this, these had field offices that these were assigned to, and they also had. It was field offices that were assigned, and then there were case numbers assigned. So my thought was, well, no, this isn't being covered up. They're investigating it,
Right.
And investigations take time. And so, let them do.
So, he never thought, they would ever do that. He was, so sure with his shirts in the FBI, the organization that he worked in, because he worked for the FBI, even though these transcripts are missing, oh well. That's not a thing, Nate. That's what I want to show you is him. And now we're gonna go to my recording with Mr. Nate Kane and his introduction to me and his story there. His story is outrageous. I mean, it really is. But when you start putting together these little snippets with like the reports he quotes and the people he quotes, it starts really painting a picture of him. And I don't think he's as innocent and just here to do the right thing as he likes to claim, because he didn't even, out of all the stuff you could report on Hillary Clinton, okay, all the crazy crimes we know the Clintons have done, he picks uranium one. Like, no offense, that's her again working with the Russians. So they'd like to accuse Donald Trump of working with the Russians. The Democrat Party has been working with the Russians forever. The national security apparatus, as much as they make Russia the bad guy, they work with them. I have Aspen Institute recordings where they say, well, we got to keep it cool with them. We got to two sides, and that's because Russia probably knows their dirt, knows where they're hiding the bodies, figuratively. You know what I mean? And when I do this, I'm just meaning bullshit, by the way, because that's what my dad does. He goes like this when you're saying bullshit. So I don't want people to be like, look at what her hand sign is, because people are insane. But what? Just what? So tell me that he couldn't have taken some, and the fact that he says some of those emails, he's talking about the ones that were classified, so we couldn't see them off of the WikiLeaks. So, and this guy doesn't remember when he started working for the FBI. March, maybe, I don't know. Is that significant that I don't remember when I started working for the FBI? But right after starting, I started working for the FBI. But within 2 years, I whistleblowed on the FBI. Even though I only looked at stuff that I'm supposed to look at, and I've been a part of the national security apparatus for the last 26 years. Make it make sense, people. And when people tell you who they are, believe them. Because he's telling us who he is. And he's not a hero. Because everything that he's given you has come and has become nothing. Nothing at all. So let's listen to John Stubbins again. John Stubbins, if you haven't heard my podcast before, the last couple episodes, I really suggest that you go back and listen, because you're not really going to understand everything I'm talking about because of how I did this story leading up to. You'll get the main idea, but I suggest that you would listen to them. But I'm going to play this, so let me share my screen. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna mute myself. This starts, and we're not gonna listen to this whole thing because I can't bear to.
That wanted to down there.
Here we go.
Family connection with Jason Miller that we mentioned. Canton's We the People.
Amish.
Jason Amish. That they have an Amish background.
Okay.
Well, if you want to get somebody that has no birth certificate, no background, no family, no anything, who would you?
Education. Who would you target?
Okay, let me stop you guys for just a minute. My friend just joined us. Nate, can you hear us, brother? Nate, can you hear us, brother? Unmute yourself. Sorry, yeah. Unmute yourself, brother. There you go. Yeah, now I can hear you. Nate, I want to introduce you to Karen Kreffer and Katie and Hayden.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
You missed part of this call. Can you tell these fine folks are right here in Ohio, in my home state, and these are good people. Can you talk about Mark Cook and Hava Loudon and because Hava Loudon was telling these fine people that she was working for Sidney Powell. Is that right, ladies?
Yes, that her team vetted essentially the affidavits because she alluded to team vetted Torsephocore Maris's, Lindemann Maris, I don't know what she's calling herself.
The 20 aliases she has.
Yeah, her affidavit for the Sidney Powell voter, litigation that she was conducting.
Interesting. Did she say when she did that?
John, did you
Trucker
listen to...
convoy. It was like before the convoy. What'd she
Was
say?
it before or after? It would have had to have been after.
Washington. They were in Washington around the convoy, she said.
Integrity team that was brought together. Mostly, we were brought together to support Peter Navarro, and but originally the guy who had put our team together, his name was Mike Tremarco, and I was asked by the White House to come down and meet at Steve Bannon's office, and was supposed to meet Peter Navarro. It never happened, but the information that we produced ended up going to Navarro's office and ultimately ended up in his report. But there was more than one team apparently that was doing that. Hava and Mark Cook, I had met Mark. I don't know if you guys are familiar with my background or anything about me, but
No.
all right. Well, I'm a former FBI cybersecurity guy for the last 25 years, but in 2017, I blew the whistle against the FBI and for their cover-up of Uranium One and the Clinton Foundation. So that, kind of automatically put me in the limelight, for lack of better words. And I, kind of immediately passed the sniff test with the Trump administration. So I was asked to come down.
I do want to say he did not pass a sniff test with the Trump administration. He was never working for the Trump administration. And before we go on, administration.
And join this teams I had a background in, and I met Mark actually at a conference about a year prior to that. I want to say it would have been like 2019 October, I think, or no, maybe it was 2017, no, 2018 October. Anyways, there was an AMP Fest down in Miami, and I was a speaker there, and so he ended up coming and sitting at my table at like a prayer breakfast type thing, and we hit it off. He was a nice guy and everything, and I didn't think much of it. Well, and after that I left, went about my way, but he, I guess, like connected with my dad who was there, and he was keeping tabs on me through my father. And so at one point in time, when we had first gotten brought down to this hotel in the Gateway Hotel down in Arlington, we were working with Sidney Powell, and we signed non-disclosure agreements, although I never met Sidney Powell. She actually left, like the night we got there, she left because that's when she got that death threat. And so right. we ended up, so I think Mike Tremarco was trying to find a funding source for us. 2 months, burned through all my leave, took a leave of absence without pay. And we did, I probably put in more hours than I ever have on anything. And ultimately we got burned pretty bad. And I found, we were doing a lot of really good work. My testimony just didn't want to have any kind of evidentiary hearings. And our focus was primarily on things that we could prove. We weren't interested in going after wild conspiracies or things that, were not provable, because ultimately.
But that's what he did. He said, he brings up his election team, and that's why I wanted to, bring this up, is after he, whistle blew about uranium one, he then joins within the next year and a half this election team with Patrick Byrne to try to get into the Trump organization and get to the Trump organization to get him to call in the military to seize voting machines and take over, which Trump would have listened to their insane plan. He would have been charged with treason, and he was never going to listen to him. And Sidney Powell was never his attorney. I mean, his attorney said during the January 6th deposition, Sidney Powell can tell herself whatever the hell she wants. She didn't have a contract, and she was not White House counsel. And what Mr. Trump did regarding what to do, the report he's talking about generating is the Navarro report. Right? The Navarro report is here. I'm sharing it to you. If it loads. No, it doesn't want to load for me, because that's what this does. Oh, come on. Okay. Well, apparently it doesn't want to show you the picture of the front of it because my computer hates me. But the Immaculate Deception is nothing but news articles and bullshit information. I read it. It's not some schmancy report that you would think some guy that has IT background and no real valid claims. I mean, Flynn tried to tell President Trump to do this military control thing, but I'm telling you right now, the president does not have control of the military. would have believed that he does. He just doesn't. Because they would have gone to the Constitution and what the Constitution of the United States says, and what it says is Congress has to call upon the military to invoke military action of any kind. And you can argue with me that to your face is blue, but I'm going to tell you, if I've ever gone in front of the Supreme Court, that's the precedent they were going to go by. They are going to go by what the Constitution says, not what is inferred by executive order or any bullshit like that. It's not a thing. So let's go over this map real quick, okay, of people that he says. I'm not going to show you it. I'll post it. It's on my website, and I'll post it. But I'll show it to you in a second. But I want to go over this real quick. He says that they were in Arlington, West Virginia. They met at Steve Bannon's office. Steve Bannon. So Steve Bannon's involved in somehow where they signed the Sidney Powell and non-disclosure agreements. So he worked for the Sidney Powell team, so that brings Patrick Byrne, General Flynn, and Sidney Powell in, okay? So working for them. Meeting at Steve Bannon's office. He never says who asked him to go to D.C. to be part of the special secret team, right? Well, who are they giving their information to that was connected to the White House? Garrett Ziegler. And he slips and says Jenna Ellis as well. Well, we all know now where Jenna Ellis stands with President Trump. Pushing that DeSantis camp and, talking as much, as she wants. And I think it's because she was a worthless attorney in that case. I think that was her whole point, was never to help him. I think it was to inhibit him, to get, conspiracy theories around him. Nate Kane provided information to Garrett Ziegler, one-on-one connection, and they say that Mark Tremarco is on his team. Well, they needed Mark Tremarco for money, and Mark Tremarco is closely associated with Rudy Giuliani. So now we're going to go to the map, okay? And I'm going to explain this to you, how he explains it to us. Share. I'm getting pretty good at this, and I don't think we're going to have any audio issues. I told you I'll get this just in time. All right, let's do this. My map. Here we go. This crazy map. Okay, so Nate Kane is in the middle here, right here. You see Mr. Nate Kane. Sidney Powell, General Flynn, Patrick Byrne. Let's zoom in here. Here's Nate Kane with General Flynn. Now here is a tweet, and it's on my at red right, like the right, Republicans right, Queen, handle on Twitter or X, whatever the hell you want to call it. This is posted. It's a reshare from Patrick Byrne's thing, December 23rd he sent it, but this was from December 21st of 2020. Garrett Ziegler snuck Rudy Giuliani, Mike Flynn, Sidney Powell, and Patrick Byrne into the White House, where they then ran into Donald Trump, okay? After his attorneys left. Rudy even says Rudy sat in some room by themselves. They went down into the basement and had dinner and argued with the White House attorneys. And they said, I really wish people would go to January 6th where his attorneys are talking about this. They said it was insane. They said Mike Flynn is, telling his one attorney to sit down and shut the up, this, that, and other thing. His attorneys are asking him, why are you trying to do this? What proof do you have this is going to work? You know what I mean? They didn't. They had nothing. They had jack shit. They had no court. They won no court cases at this point, and a court's not going to hear you. They weren't getting involved, man. I mean, they just weren't. So, but the whole point of this is why? Why were they doing this? Well, what would have been the outcome if he would have done it? I'm telling you right now, they would have charged that man with treason. Donald Trump, I just knows Mike Flynn is a liar. He's a liar. He had spoken, as we talked about last episode, to Russia 7 times and did not tell one person of the Trump administration. When he says in those transcripts to the Russian ambassador, the boss knows, I think he's talking about Mike Pence, which would make complete sense that he's talking to Mike Pence, because Mike Pence is a traitor to the country in general. Okay? So his contact people were Jenna Ellis and Garrett Ziegler. From Nate Kane's mouth, this map was made, okay? Kane states documents were given to Ellis, Okay, because that they were hoping those would then go. And then Kane also states that Ziegler was their connection to Navarro and constant contact with them, equipment. Oh, and then afterwards, Garrett Ziegler tried to take some server that Mark Cook was offering him. Okay, now Peter Navarro. I want to say this. Kane said that he went down to support Navarro. Their information was put into Navarro's election report, but he never formally met him. Okay, never met him. Kane also states that Steve Bannon asked him to come down by the White House, but met at Steve Bannon's office. I'm going to say this right now. Steve Bannon and Trump, Steve Bannon only was on Trump's actual team for the first 7 months of his election. So that wasn't a thing. And I think Steve Bannon is shady, just personally. Now, Mike Tremarco, what is his point here? He was money for one, okay? And they needed his credit card to continue their election investigation or whatever. But Mike Tremarco's in the paper saying that he was in straight contact with Garrett Ziegler and giving Garrett Ziegler information. And Mike Tremarco ties directly to Rudy Giuliani. Okay? Now, Mark Cook, he worked as an election integrity team with Nate the K. Nate met Mark at an AmFest in October 2018. He said, it was real weird. He's like, he kept connections on me through my dad. Why? Who cares? It's just weird shit like that. It doesn't make sense. Kane says that he is from Colorado and is an ISP, so I think CISSP too, no security integration systems. Embedded himself in Mike Lindell's team and Mastriano. So once again, John Stubbins, Mike Lindell, Mark Cook, Mike Lindell. You guys remember Mike Lindell being picked up by the FBI, and then Mike Lindell was pretty quiet and has been pretty quiet since. He says because he's broke. I don't think he's broke. I think motherfuckers got caught in some shit. You know what I mean? And I think they're all just being handled. Havalauda and Shava is her real name, by the way. Her legal name, I background checked this chick, is Shava. She has no skill sets, but apparently she worked on the election team. Nate can't really explain that. Somehow she worked with Sidney Powell as well, and that was out of Hava's mouth. Mark Cook brought her along. It was weird how she showed up. Hava, Ohio Precinct Strategy, is one of her groups. Do not follow them. She is a psycho. Keith Lee, January 6th, right here, right next to it. Before the Capitol riot, calls for cash and talk of a revolution. Ex-detective wearing a press pass, by the way, with an earpiece in his phone, walking out of the Capitol shortly after people started being arrested and said, hey, everybody's being arrested. Our mission is finished. What? Everybody's being arrested now. The mission's finished. Everybody's being arrested. Our mission's finished. Let's go. Let's sing the national anthem. You know, I just got all these guys charged with insurrection, which nobody's charged with insurrection, but, you know, charges for disruption, public corruption, whatever. You know what I mean? But his job's done there. Why the hell is he not in prison? And he's wearing a press pass. I mean, he's wearing a red press pass, but we just found that out about a week ago. Somebody tagged me in a video when I asked who Keith Lee was. And an ex-detective. So he's also affiliated with law enforcement. And Stop the Steal. Brandon, I think he's involved with Stop the Steal, that whole organization. And Brandon Straka was in this video of Keith Lee, which is really interesting, which is Walk Away, which is Havalauda wearing the Walk Away shirt in her 2020 interview, talking about the MAGA convoy movement. Do not follow that convoy movement. It's just, you can't make this shit. Truth is stranger than fiction, people. All right. Now we got Harry Howry, which took me a minute to find this fuck. You know what I mean? But he is the chief chief economic advisor for China. Okay? For global China and energy. China energy, batteries right now, right? Green energy bullshit right now. That is Nate Kane's partner. Ex-naval officer, Tenable Security Systems as well. I mean, if you could say NSA affiliated, the whole fucking security apparatus affiliated, Harry Howry is there, right? And now these two own a company, Kate and Associates, together. And super fucking shady, okay? So these people on this election team, I don't think it was election team, I was a way to set up Trump team because the other election information is bullshit. I'm going to tell you this thing right now about election people. Unless you can get into the system, into the software, which you can't because it is proprietary, that is a lost cause, trying to even figure out what happened with those fucking machines. What you all need to be pushing at your county level, is how easy it is, paper ballots. You need to start pressuring your public officials for paper ballots. The end. The second you take away these machines, the second you give your yourself a chance. So that's what everybody should be pushing, because you're never going to see that fucking software. You're never going to see it. It's not a thing. They own it is proprietary information. They own it. You're never going to see it. So I don't care what anybody tells you. Now, Nate Kane spoke to Tori down in Washington because she was the second half of their team working with Patrick Byrne, who was ex-Overstock CEO, right? And he had to resign. Why? Because he was having an affair with a Russian spy. That Russian spy ended up doing time in prison, by the way, in the States. Okay? Her sister, Tori Mears' sister, more important one, I think she's one of the key people in this whole Mike Flynn grift. She's been with him since the beginning. Since 9/11, okay? She has fought these never-ending fucking wars with him, right? She ran the Operation Enduring Freedom, or Operation Iraqi Freedom. She has been a part of the security intelligence apparatus her entire life. And she is close with that family. The Maris family is close with Warren Buffett, who also is family friends with Patrick Byrne. See how I keep repeating his name? She worked with Millie Weaver, who was attached to Alex Jones. That Alex Jones show, I can never remember his fucking show's name. But in Alex Jones is psycho. What did he just get in trouble with the government? Sandy Hook, and now he's going to come save America? Bullshit. PSYOP, okay? And it all leads back to this old man. Old, dried up old man, John Brennan. Who is the one that started Russiagate? Who's the one that went into and told Obama in the Oval Office in July of 2016 that Hillary Clinton found out, probably through her Russian assets, Michael Flynn, too, because he worked with the Secretary of Defense right next to her, by the way, when he was in the DIA. He worked right next to her. Okay? Brennan told Obama that they had heard from some human source, the confidential human source, CHS, you'll see it all over the German reports like that, which were found out later to be a lie. That guy just got caught talking to the Russian oligarchs and has paid $45,000 and doing some time in prison, that the Trump campaign was colluding with Russia. Which, when Brennan knew it was the opposite. And then you got this guy, Nate Kane, talking about, Hillary Clinton emails, and this. So out of all the shit you could blow on Hillary Clinton, okay, you chose Uranium One. Not Podesta, not the emails, not Uranium One. And nothing came from it. Nothing. Nothing came from it. Zero. Zilch. Nothing. And now, and it should scare the shit out of us, right? And now he's running in District 2. Well, who is the Democrat in District 2? Let's see. Why is he running, right? Oh, just the head of the Podesta group. So is he the holder on the GOP side to make sure that this guy that is the head of the Podesta group, the Democrat, it's happening in my county. And whose plan is this? To run these national security agents as congressmen. I believe if you've worked in the NSA the way that Nate Kane has worked in the NSA, which, by the way, he also says he specializes in FISA, and we all know what happened with the Durham report with the FISA. He's an idiot. Let's see what Nate says, though, about blowing the whistle and working with Mike Horowitz, okay, with the Horowitz report. Just because I think it's just to be honest with you, it's freaking interesting.
I refused to testify, and I refused to give them my name. They wanted my name.
They always want the name, don't they?
Yeah, they wanted my name, and they were like, no. So then they said, well, then we're not going to take the information from you.
What?
Yeah, so we went back to Horowitz and we said, hey, they're not willing to take the information from us. What do we do? And he said, well, ask them if I give them the information, if they'll.
What? Why wouldn't Congress want to take the information from Nate Kane? And this is after, by the way, this is after he already went to Devin Nunes. They found an in through one of his friends to Devin Nunes, and Devin Nunes dropped him like a bad habit. Never reached out to him again. Nothing ever came out of it. Never spoke to him again. Nothing. And I'm not saying Devin Nunes is innocent. I'm saying I think Devin Nunes knew exactly who that guy was, because they had already been in situations where the FBI tried to set them up. But Congress Committee, House Intelligence Committee, Senate Intelligence Committee did not want to take Nate Kane's information. Why? Because they knew who Nate Kane was? So he had to go through Mike Horowitz to get it, to even get that congressional hearing.
I refused to testify, and I refused to give them my name. They wanted my name.
They always want the name, don't they?
Yeah, they wanted my name, and they were like, no. So then they said, well, then we're not going to take the information from you.
What?
Yeah, so we went back to Horowitz and we said, hey, they're not willing to take the information from us. What do we do? And he said, well, ask them if I give them the information, if they'll take it from me in my office. And so we went back and asked. They said yes.
Oh.
So Horowitz's senior staff member delivered it by hand to both the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. And in the House, it was a guy by the name of Cordon Hull who received the package and reviewed it and confirmed that it was of an urgent concern, national security, and then he promptly gave it to, the HPSC. So he was like their liaison. I found out months later the Senate never even received it. They got, like, whoever their liaison was, shoved it in a drawer and forgot about it.
So sorry, this is before the November 2018 midterm election.
Oh, yeah.
So had your
Before the 18.
information got out in the public domain and been taken seriously, been reviewed by the House and the Senate.
Yeah. So November 18 was when I was getting raided.
Right. Well, so that this explains why maybe
yes,
you were getting raided.
Right. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. So the Senate never got it. I think later it was retrieved by Lindsey Graham, because, and I'll get to that story in a minute. But
sounds like captured.
Yeah. So I ended up going home, and I just kind of forgot about it. And I still had this thumb drive, but I took it and I buried it in my backyard.
Wow.
I mean, I took a baby food jar, put it in a Ziploc bag, shoved it in there, buried it. I figure, I don't want anybody, finding this. And so, while I was waiting around, to see what was going to happen. And I knew something was up because my phone, I started having weird situations going on with my phone. Clicks, weird.
You mean while you're on calls, hearing things?
Yeah, feedback, weird clicks, weird things like that. Mm-hmm. And I knew I was under surveillance. And Michael, God bless him, is a lawyer, and so he thinks that people are going to follow the law when they work for the Justice Department. And so he calls me up and he says, he always started his conversation with us with, this is attorney-client privileged conversation. No one's authorized to listen to this conversation, and that's how we would start the conversation. Well, they didn't care about that. Right. They're listening. And so, they just can't use it in court, but they certainly used it to figure out when to raid my home.
Right.
So he calls and goes, hey, we got this problem with the thumb drive that you still have. He goes, we need to get that somewhere safe and out of your house. And I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, shoot, they're probably listening to this conversation. But he says, we need to get this out of your house and down some, get it somewhere safe. And so I told him, okay. And literally like 2 days later, the feds show up, at my house.
What
and,
time roughly, and how many of them? And
So I got the thumb drive, mind you, unburied it.
Dug
Yeah,
up.
had they raided my house when it was buried, they would never have found it, because I'd have just shut my mouth and not said anything, and they be on a
Search the
Easter egg hunt,
underwear, right, and not dig up
Right.
the backyard.
But he because he told me to take it out, I took it out, and that's when they knew that was their opportunity. So I can't remember exactly what time it was. It must probably like early afternoon. It was not, or maybe it was, no, I think it was morning, because I think it was about 9 o'clock in the morning, because I was there for like 6 hours while they were interrogating me and searching my home.
this is November of 2018.
Yes, it was a week before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah, because I had a hunting trip planned with my sons, and that all got screwed up. So
The reason I bring it up is that in the second week of December 2018, the FBI came talking to me.
oh, really?
Yeah. So, but we'll stay on your story.
Wow.
So I ended up, the FBI knocked on the door. It was a Mar-a-Lago style raid. They didn't.
It was a Mar-a-Lago style raid, because they gotta drop that in. Yeah, they raided his house. And then, the guy that is some super security secret spy after they raid your house, Nate, you then had the FBI calls you back and you give him your passwords and all of your information. Oh, and that was just, oops, mistake. And that was after you told me to contact your attorney, oops. His bad. Why would you even do that? Why would you, no offense, anybody with the national security background that you have, you know what you say. What would you say? Contact my lawyer, I have no comment, but plead the fifth. But that's not what he does. No. This guy is running in District 2 of West Virginia. That is scary. And there should be, when you work for our military industrial complex, with the contractors, I really don't think you should be able to be in Congress after that, or at least for 10 years after you worked with them, and you can't have any contracts or associations, because Kane has a IT business now. And then if you look at his work history where he worked in, I showed you that last time, that website, it's all security systems for the NSA. And he's a private contractor for him. Basically, put on your forehead, I work for Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and then say you're the good guy that doesn't want the forever war. Now, this is what really triggered me about Nate, and I'm going to play this. Everything he says is very controlled, and Karen even pointed that out when we talked to him back in November of 2022. It was November 18th of 2022. So I've had this recording for a really long time, and I kept it because I just feel, and I've kept it to myself because I feel like hindsight's 2020, and sometimes you learn something along the way, and it just wasn't time to tell this story. So here's a claim when, we're talking about the election integrity team with him, and he's telling us this fantastical story with Tori. We're trying to get him to focus in on the sister, and he's avoiding it like the plague. He's pretty good at that. And we're just going to play this clip with Karen real quick.
And I think he's infiltrated. And so John Brennan.
Well, remember Patrick Byrne, he got himself into trouble with his relationship with that Russian
spy. Yeah.
And so what happens, and people don't understand this oftentimes, but what happens is the FBI will catch somebody in something, and they'll be like, all right, look, here's the deal. You work for us now.
Karen, that's what we said they did with Tori, except she is the person that's running it with her sister from the Obama administration.
It was all over Alex Jones's show, back in the day, too.
Yeah.
Well, just so you guys know, Patrick Byrne is working daily with General Flynn.
Yeah.
So what's that say?
Well, look, I'm not going to go there, but
I never followed him or all of them. We just stumbled upon it.
There are too many things that I've seen that that lead me to believe that there are a number of compromised individuals that have been in the spotlight. And, it's the people who are not in the spotlight that are doing the grassroots work and getting stuff done that actually...
Hello, nice to meet you.
So you're talking about Patrick Byrne, right? All right, so here is Nate Kane's campaign finance, which I went through. It's really kind of interesting. He has about 20 donors altogether, man. He's not doing that well. He's raised about 80 grand in a campaign that should be a couple $1 million. But I found interesting, I don't know Patrick Byrne, and I didn't know him that well. Who is Nate Kane's number one donor with the amount of $3,000? I'll give you a guess. I'll give you 3 guesses. First 2 don't count. On October 16th, 2023. What does it say? Patrick Byrne? Number one fan, Nate. 3 grand. Patrick Byrne. And Patrick Byrne is behind all of these grifters. Tori Maris, Millie Weaver, Alex Jones, Mike Flynn. Talks about, go back to my episode, Jade Helm, talks about the human train system I'm talking about, that we will be talking about in the future. I just don't want to blow up your guys' heads. What? But you don't know him. You just met him recently, right, Nate? That's what you told me on the Twitter space, and I have that's on my website. We made a new page for you. It's Kane Files, and we're gonna have the Flynn Files. You can't make it up, you guys. So he is not a MAGA candidate. I think he's an operative and a placeholder. I think he wants to win the GOP primary, and then he'll just be a placeholder for the Podesta Group guy. I would keep calling him Podesta Group guy because I always forget his name, so that's my nickname for him. But District 2, West Virginia, Democrat incumbent is the Podesta Group guy. He researched emails and filed emails and worked on security tenable systems and knew all about what was going on with Russiagate, with Comey and everything. So then this mother trucker was stationed in Hawaii. And I'm not saying that I think that he should know who he is, like they're friends or anything, but who he is as the fleet of the U.S. SOCOM. I forget what he was then. He was right below what he is now, but he's the head of the fleet, Charlie Flynn. I mean, he's been in the Southern Fleet forever. And no offense, Afghanistan, he was huge. So he should know who he is. So I asked him this question. All right, and we're going to play it.
So, my relationship with Lara has been damaged because of this Haven Loudon. And when you dig deeper, we talk about, Patrick Byrne and, I know you don't want to get into General Flynn, but,
I don't know. Here's the thing with General Flynn. I've met and I've spoken with Joe Flynn. And I like him. He's a nice guy. He's
a nice guy. I know Joe.
And I love what, a lot of the things that General Flynn has said publicly, and I do believe
that. But he's working with Patrick Byrne.
Well, I do believe he loves his country, but the thing is that I don't know what any of these people's true ultimate motivations are. I don't know. I hear Joe Flynn has talked publicly about a conversation he had with his brother, after the election, where where General Flynn said, "Yeah, we kept that bitch from getting elected."
Who's Charlie, by the way?
Well, so when I hear things like that, look, I'm sure we all get worked up and emotional and say things at times, but that doesn't sound like that sounds more of like a vindictive type person and less about somebody who is a patriot loving.
I get that. Hey, quick question before you go though. Who's Charlie Flynn?
I don't know. I know he's got a bunch of brothers and stuff, and he's got another brother that's a general as well.
So it's probably him, Charlie.
But at the end of the day, I think I don't have answers. I just know that we've got to pray and we've got to seek God, and He will eventually lead us out of this darkness.
I always do this. I always do not unmute myself. Anyways, so do you like how he was ignoring what I was saying? Why was he ignoring me? I don't think he knew. I think he was caught base. I don't think he ever expected me to ask him that question. When he came back from Japan, he went to Hawaii. That's where Michael Flynn is stationed. The whole area, up and down from California to Hawaii, okay? Southern Pacific Fleet, okay? He's been there for years. Don't tell me you don't know who Charlie Flynn is. You want to know why I didn't want to answer that question? Because of January 6th, which his whole group is tied to. They're all tied to it. The trucker convoy, the election integrity teams, the social media bullshit with these influencers, all like the fake fighting. And honestly, people, it's to keep you distracted. All of this is to keep you distracted. They think you are too dumb to figure out what the hell they're doing. And I'm going to tell you this. I just watched a video from 2016 of the Aspen Institute where they are talking about, and this is 2016, keep it in mind, how their psychological clandestine services in the West are not that good. And what they mean is, and this is where Jade Helm comes in too, because that happened in 2015, right? The biggest army operation on U.S. soil. It involves psychological operations as well. SOCOM. They did not have a hold of the psychological like home base operations within the United States. So they set it up. And that's going to be our next episode. It is going to be called Flynn and Fusion Centers. What are they? How are they? And then I'm going to start introducing you guys to the human terrain. This is bigger than Donald Trump. And I believe me, vote in 2024. I'm one of Donald Trump's biggest fans, okay? And the reason it doesn't matter because of him, though. It matters because the military-industrial complex is running our government. Is running our social media. We think we have freedom. That is a joke. They want to censor us. They want to control what you do, how you think, and it's to continue their forever wars of bullshit. And Donald Trump pissed them off. You want to know why Donald Trump pissed them off? I'm going to tell you this right now. Because he did in 4 years what they said couldn't be done for decades. World peace. Easy as that. They said it couldn't be done. It was done, wasn't it? And they think we are stupid. Well, I'm going to tell you this right now to Mr. Flynn and Patrick Burns. I know y'all are, I've read how the algorithm works on X and Twitter. Y'all are Facebook stalking and watching me on Twitter. I'm going to tell you this right now, and you listen up real clear. We're not stupid. And we've caught you. And they've caught you. And 2024 is the year of the truth, buds. And General Flynn is General Globalist. That's his new name, GG. General Globalist. He's a globalist. He's the one that has helped facilitate the military-industrial complex, form these public-private partnerships with private businesses, which I am done with that. What happened to antitrust? And it needs to come down on these fuckers' heads. And what, excuse my language, but this is insane. So you all stay focused. Our next episode is Flint Infusion Centers, and we're going to dig down a little bit more deep into the Horowitz report, Durham report. I suggest anybody who hasn't read those reports to read them, because it's just interesting. You learn a lot. And Nate, I'm not quite done with you yet, but we're done with you for now because, no offense, not that important. And anybody in West Virginia, District 2, you have 3 other candidates. I had them written down. I don't have that notebook with me, but I will announce it tomorrow because I missed Monday because my kids were still getting back from being sick. So I will be on tomorrow, and we're going to talk Flint Files Infusion Centers. And then next week, we're back to Ohio. Ohio kind of. It's the whole states because we're going to get into education and funding. And then we're going to do once a week conspiracy corner. It's not really conspiracy. We'll say military industrial complex day, where I will continue dissecting and proving to you guys my theory here and introducing to the human terrain system, HTS, what it is, how they're using it, and what they're, and honestly, the schools and this go hand in hand because of the programs that the military has put in with our schools. Our new strategic framework that came in through the COVID financing, it ties into the military industrial complex. It's really quite interesting how everything's, coming full circle. But 2024 is the year of the truth, buds. And you guys stay focused and you have a great night. And I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.